Imagine a country known for its open arms and warm welcomes now finding itself at a crossroads. This is the story of Ireland, a nation grappling with the rising number of asylum seekers, all while its own citizens struggle to find shelter and support. The Irish government is under immense pressure, facing criticism for both its treatment of migrants and its apparent neglect of native homelessness. What's driving this crisis? And more importantly, can Ireland sustain this level of migration without imploding? Today we're diving into a question that's tearing Ireland apart. Are the needs of asylum seekers overshadowing those of Irish citizens? Is this humanitarianism, or has it gone too far? Across Ireland, tensions are rising. On one side, you have Irish citizens, some of whom have been waiting decades for housing. On the other side, asylum seekers, coming from war-torn and impoverished countries, who see Ireland as a beacon of hope. But with Ireland's resources stretched thin, many locals feel left behind. The question on everyone's mind, shouldn't the Irish government prioritise its own citizens first? Let's talk numbers. This year alone, nearly 7,000 asylum seekers have arrived in Ireland, a staggering 87% increase from the previous year. According to recent reports, 91% of these individuals are believed to have crossed the border from Northern Ireland, many from EU-based countries like France and Italy. Why? Because Ireland's historically open borders and generous social programs make it an attractive destination. But here's where it gets complicated. Ireland has limited resources. With only 5 million people and a housing crisis that's leaving over 10,000 Irish homeless, many locals are starting to ask, why can't the government do more for us first? Let's break this down. A person living on the streets in Ireland costs the government about €20,000 per year in social and healthcare costs. On the other hand, providing housing and services for asylum seekers can cost even more. Now multiply that by 7,000 new arrivals and you're looking at a figure close to €140 million annually just to accommodate this year's influx. But what about the Irish citizens who've been homeless for years? Some have been on housing waiting lists for 20 or 30 years, yet asylum seekers are often housed immediately, bypassing those who've been waiting the longest. Is this fair? Take Mary, a single mother who's been waiting for over a decade to receive social housing. Meanwhile, she watches newcomers receive support within months of arrival. She's not alone. Thousands of others are in the same boat, and many of them are starting to feel like second-class citizens in their own country. So what's the government doing about it? Recently, the Irish government has proposed several reforms aimed at limiting the number of asylum seekers by cutting certain social benefits. The idea is simple. If Ireland becomes a less attractive destination financially, fewer people will try to enter. But is this too little, too late? Critics argue that the situation has already spiraled out of control. Ireland's welfare system is under immense strain, and public sentiment is turning hostile. Many are asking if the government's new policies are merely a band-aid for a wound that requires surgery. As the number of asylum seekers grows, so too does concern about public safety. Unvetted individuals are being placed in communities across Ireland, often near schools and parks, leading to rising fear among locals. Is this just xenophobia, or are these concerns valid? While statistics don't suggest a massive spike in crime, the perception of insecurity is spreading, fueled by the lack of proper vetting for some migrants and concerns about integration. Let's not forget one of the core issues at play here: housing. Ireland is in the midst of a housing crisis with rising prices and insufficient construction, leaving many, both Irish and migrant, without adequate shelter. The question is, can the government really handle both its homeless population and the new wave of asylum seekers simultaneously? To put things in perspective, housing prices in Dublin have skyrocketed by 14% in just the last 2 years. Meanwhile, the government has failed to deliver on promised social housing projects. So, when an asylum seeker receives a home before a native, it's easy to see why frustrations are boiling over. In many ways, Ireland is at a breaking point. The government's challenge is balancing its moral responsibility to asylum seekers with its obligation to its own people. This isn't just an Irish problem, it's a European problem as countries across the EU face similar crises. But the big question remains, can Ireland continue to open its doors to refugees without neglecting its citizens? What do you think? Should Ireland tighten its borders? Or is it right to offer asylum to those in need, no matter the cost? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into global issues. And next week we'll explore how Ireland's housing crisis compares to the rest of Europe. Stay tuned.